Greetings and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Ohm. We can all wish, right? Anyway, what I've got for you today is a video on lasers, not the basics. If you need that, please look into my playlist. The old videos are still very much relevant, and they do cover the basics. However, there's been a small change, not so recently, or not recently at all, and that is that storage now counts against AP. Now what that means is, well, not much if you're not using any doublers. The base amount of AP is still very much the same, but if you're using any amount of doublers, then storage now counts against that. And what that means is pretty simple. I've got two laser setups here, and you'll notice I've replaced two storage cavities on the other one with destabilizers. And this is now objectively better, and let me show you. This setup has more storage. Yes, it has this much firepower, 6.82, and it has these statistics. Material per firepower of 1045 and volume per firepower of 17. Now if we go here, we have material per firepower of 925 and volume per firepower of 14.91. Lower numbers are better. This means this is less expensive per firepower and smaller per firepower. And this is pretty obvious, right? This is smaller than this. But because destabilizers make this use more of its storage, it's essentially just replacing the storage without adding storage. So the other thing you'll notice is the firepower, I believe, is, well, 0.02 difference, but it's essentially the same. However, this one has just a little bit more AP. Naturally, this is a small design. At larger sizes, this can make a not insignificant difference. Besides, why would you waste anyway? So yeah, first part, just use more destabilizers. They're much better now. Previously, you know, more storage just meant you could potentially burst and blah blah blah, but now it's just more expensive for lower AP. Moving on. Next, I present you a Tetris, or laser Tetris, that goes very well with the previously mentioned information. This is a 1x3 that works very well with 0Q, 1Q, 2Q, and even 3Q switches. And you can just have, like so, two destabilizers along the line. You use a regular cavity to have two pumps, up and down, and then some single input cavities for storage. And then once you have a decent amount of storage, or a good storage to pump ratio, and your two destabilizers, you can start putting in doublers for AP. And if you're wondering, well, this is 1x3, and as I can see here, there's not room for 3Q switches. Well, you can do it like this. And yeah, you're gonna have dead space where you have the connectors, but this is still much better in my opinion than having these little sticks at the end of your 3x3s. And it's also, I don't know, I find it more convenient than having dedicated doubler lines. You can put them along there. You can also put them with doubler lines, dedicated doubler lines, to increase the overall AP. And if you're wondering how that compares to our other Tetris, it compares very well. This is lower firepower and low volume, which means that things like the cavities and the multi-purpose block count for a greater percentage of the whole assembly, the whole cost. And it's still very good. It's actually better volume per firepower than this one already, even at that small size. It is a bit more expensive, but that is because doublers are not well represented in terms of firepower, right? This is much higher AP. I'll turn the UI back on. This is 53.1 AP, and this is 44.5. So just a very good Tetris. This will work very well with a lot of setups. Unfortunately, not with 4Q, but still, it's very, very effective. And you can have your laser output regulator, and you can do a neat little trick that is also enabled by a not so recent update, but that definitely wasn't available before when I made my previous laser tutorials. So let's show that off. So I've gone ahead and increased the size of our assembly just a little bit. And as you can see, the damage is pretty high. However, if you're decent at math, you also notice that we are not able to sustain this amount of damage. Now this isn't a terrible thing. The whole laser is getting used, which is really good, but we are wasting about, in this case, 1,000 materials on an extra Q switch that we can't sustain. However, let's think about this for a moment. At this time, it does 16,000 damage per shot, which is pretty good, and it could be even higher. And this would be good for bypassing thick armor with every shot. Now, here's the thing. The extra Q switch is not wasted. Why? Even though this isn't perfectly sustainable, we can make full use and bypass armor. Now, if we change this and halved it, and it's not going to work because I've already set things up, but basically, if we halve the damage, we would do about 8,000 minus attenuation, which is enough to comfortably one-shot a piece of a large custom jet through a piece of metal or a metal beam. So this could be pretty good for anti-air duty. And how do we achieve that? Well, we need a pretty simple breadboard, and I really mean really quite simple, and one ACB. In this case, we are looking for the size of the target. So we're using the target here and its volume. And right now I'm saying between 0 and 2500. You can pick whatever size you think is, let's say, appropriate for the damage change. Right? This is the cutoff. So if it is between those values, it is pushing a key. Right now it is set to push down. This is just a way to communicate with the breadboard. There's a lot of ways to do this. You could do this with the, whatchamacallits, the brain, please. The drives, the drive control, so let's say primary drive, secondary drive, tertiary drive, whatever. You can send different signals like that, and I think you can even do some pretty cool stuff with basically drives that you create, because now you can actually read custom drives using the breadboard, which is pretty cool. Anyway, getting off track. So you've got one ACB, and based on whether or not the value is true, the breadboard will do something. And that something is change the damage. And let me demonstrate that. Currently, this is untrue. So let me just invert the condition for demonstration purposes. And suddenly, we are doing 8,600 damage per shot. This is sustainable, and this is what we'll use for anti-air. And the way you achieve this, I've already shown, but let me explain it. We have a complex control, I believe, reader. That is not true. It is a... oh, see, that's the custom propulsion. I'm using the regular propulsion. I'm using a printer with 2 outputs and then 2 math evaluators. Why? Because we're trying to change 2 properties of the laser. And it simply checks if A is greater than 0 in both cases, meaning is our breadboard signal active or not. If it is, then I'm doing 5 to the laser output regulator and the cavity discharge rate. This is this thing. All right. And I'm changing also the minimum shot damage. Why? Because, as I said before, it's unsustainable at maximum power, and you don't want it to waste power firing underpowered shots that might not get through the armor. So we're setting the minimum shot damage to different values based on our target. Let me do that again, and it's back. Yeah, this time it's saying 15,000. And these are the numbers here, right? If the signal is on, then we're trying to do AA. We want 6,000 at least damage per shot. If we're firing armored targets, or at least presumably armored targets, we want 15,000. And that's all you need, really. Presuming that you have, let's say, lambs also on your vehicle, you could absolutely filter it, right? You could go like pew and pew and then using Shift-N, naming this pew. And now if you do that, and you have a lambs with another output regulator that is not named pew, then this will not affect it and mess with your lambs. Why? Because it is filtering for only the laser output regulators that are named pew. And that's it. So hopefully you found this helpful. Please leave a comment knowing or telling me what you'd like to see in the next videos from the Depths videos, what you'd like to see from the channel in general, because I've been pretty quiet. And I do have a growing list of tutorials, but I've certainly not covered everything. We'll see if you ask me for something like a cram tutorial or whatever. It's not my specialty, but I might look into it. But anyway, leave your suggestion in the comment, leave a like, and consider subscribing if you found the video helpful. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.